Good afternoon and warm welcome to Indian Electrical and Electronic Manufacturers Association's fourth edition of Intellect Conference 2021. As we go digital, we look forward to welcoming you with an all new theme, Electricity 5.0, with our focus on green, on digital, on cyber, e mobility, and markets. As we get set for this power packed day, and we look forward to lots of interactions from leaders amongst us in the industry. We'll be discussing a lot, focusing and revolving around a few of our subjects being utility business, the new way forward, going green, make it happen, future technology and trends. There's a lot that's going to happen today, an opportunity for you to learn and engage from our leaders from the industry. So, may I please request all our delegates to send in questions, thoughts, and comments for our panelists and speakers right here as we get set for our first discussion of the day on the theme utility business, the new way forward. To take the proceedings further and add so much more value, may I please present to you our moderator, Mr. Vikram Gandotra, member, EMA NEC, and General Manager, Siemens. Warm welcome, sir, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Isha. And a very warm welcome to all our delegates, especially on the auspicious day of Basant Panchami and Saraswati Puja in different parts of our country and Asia, South Asia. Power distribution business is becoming more challenging with variability both in the availability of supply, which is always there, and now more variability is seen in the consumption side. Further, with the renewable supply and distribution network, the distribution utilities are finding new problems to solve which they did not see earlier. And the aim remains same. Every consumer should be getting reliable and economical power supply. Whenever a consumer switches on a light or a fan or something, it should never fail. He should always be able to get that electricity. Discussions on the distribution sector are not rare. They are very common these days. But this is perhaps the first such panels of experts after just after the recent far-reaching announcements by Ministry of Power have been made. A revamped, reform-based, result-linked power distribution program of over 3 trillion rupees investment has been announced for the next 5 years, and something unthought of earlier has also been announced, something like the consumers can choose the electricity company and reliability. To give us a perspective on the objective of these moves and more details on how this sector will look like in the future, we have with us the people who have developed these plans, the utility leaders who will play a major role, regulatory officials who regulate this sector, smart grid leaders who have international experience, and also we have two esteemed leaders from our neighboring countries who will give us a perspective on the changes taking place in their utilities. Now, I would like to first give a short introduction of our esteemed speakers, and then I will hand over the panel to them one by one. So the first speaker is Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad. Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad is Joint Secretary in Ministry of Power, and he is working in the reform and restructuring and grid operation and monitoring, responsible for amendment of the Electricity Act, the tariff policy, and bidding guidelines, etc. He has wide-reaching experience in the power station, monitoring of coal supplies and power plants. He has worked with regulatory commissions and has a rich experience in the global utility sector also. And Mr. Prasad, he is going to join us very shortly. he is with the minister currently. The next speaker we have is Madam Anjali Chandra. She's a member at the Punjab State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Madam is a well-known figure. She is a gold medalist from Thapar Institute, an MBA also in finance, and she was awarded the Central Board of Irrigation and Power Women to Power Sector by National Council of Power Utilities. She is behind system studies for the Jammu and Srinagar areas, and also for Bhutan. She was instrumental in preparing the 19th Electrical Power Survey report of CA, which is the base document for perspective planning of the power sector for the next 20 years. Next on this panel, we have Mr. Anil Sardana. He will be joining at in about 15 minutes. I will introduce him once he comes. Then we have Mr. Bikash Dewan, Managing Director, Dhaka Power Distribution Company Limited. Mr. Bikash Dewan is serving at DPDC Bangladesh as Managing Director, and DPDC is one of the largest power distribution companies. And Mr. Dewan was prior to this Chief Engineer of Bangladesh Power Development Board. He has helped in accelerating electricity business and turning around most of the business and operating parameters of multi-location transmission and distribution operation in the current assignment of DPDC. He is a management and techno-commercial professional with over 35 years of diversified experience, and he has worked in practically every field of utility business. Welcome, Mr. Dewan. Next is Mr. Hitendra Dev Shakia, Managing Director, NEA Nepal. He is holding a bachelor's degree from Regional Engineering College, Durgapur, and a diploma from Norway in power systems, and master's in power engineering from Kathmandu University, Dhulikhel. Yeah. He has held various positions in NEA, and he has a rich experience of over 33 years. Next, we have Mr. Arun Mishra. Arun Mishra ji is currently serving as Director, Power Management Unit of National Smart Grid Mission under the Ministry of Power, Government of India. This NSGM is a single point contact to plan and monitor implementation of the policies and programs related to smart grid in India. Since March 2018, he is also the Vice Chair of ISGAN, that is International Smart Grid Action Network Executive Committee. He's a graduate electrical engineer from REC Kurukshetra and postgraduate diploma in HR, and over 34 years experience, and major focus is on selection of information and communication technology. And of course, now he's working on business transformation of power systems. Welcome, Arunji. With this, we have our set of eminent panelists, and one by one, I will go to them and maybe ask them to start with a few words, and then we will go for a larger panel discussion. So first, I would like to invite Madam Anjali Chandra. Welcome, Madam. We are honored to have you with us. And Madam, a lot of what DISCOM achieves or does not achieve is guided by the regulator's understanding and support. So what do you think the regulator will need to take in order to see the success of the new amendments that are coming or proposed, or even maybe you can start with how even as the Electricity Act's provisions were currently, what is that a regulator needs to do or can support DISCOM in meeting these objectives? What do
Okay.
you?
I will start. Thank you, Mr. Gandotra. I would like to start with an overview. But first, a very warm Good morning to everyone, or rather good afternoon to everyone, and to my esteemed panelists, as well as to the participants in this show. This is about distribution, and we all know that distribution is now the weakest link in our power sector chain, and it is the cash register of the entire power sector. So we need to have a very strong distribution. The electricity sector in India is around 375 gigawatt of installed capacity, and maybe around 450,000 of circuit kilometers of lines of 220 kV and above, and 10 lakh MVA of transformers, transformation capacity at the high voltage, and around 127 lakh circuit kilometer at the low voltage level. So, and around 8 million transformers at the distribution level. So we have a huge task in front of us in managing the distribution system. And we all know that the government of India has set a very huge target for integration of renewables into the sector. And we already have around more than 80,000 megawatt of renewable, and quite a lot of it at the distributed level, which is at the distributed generation at distribution level. So the complexity of the system has increased to a very large extent. Instead of having controlled centralized generation, the utilities now have to face decentralized distributed generation in their systems along with central generation. And for this, how to manage this for a utility is very complex. As a regulator, we have to enable the utilities to be able to manage this integration of the renewable systems. We need smart utilities, smart data. Data needs to be available at the fingertip of the utilities. And for that, the regulator has to enable the system, make regulations which enable this transformation. So these transformations have started a few years back, and from 2017 onwards, and CERC has put in a lot of regulations, and so have we. We have put in regulations for how to do the forecasting and scheduling of renewable energy, how to do intrastate deviation settlement mechanism for the distributed generation, which is at 11 kV, 33 kV, 66 kV. So we have put in regulations in place for forecasting and scheduling of all the renewable generation, so that the utility knows beforehand how much generation is coming in and how much it has to schedule from the conventional, how much it will have to do a balancing act, because integration of renewables into any distribution system is a balancing act between the load, the generation at distributed end, the generation being received from the centralized sources, and how to balance the injections, the reactive power which is being injected. So all these require a lot of effort at the distribution level. We have put in a lot of regulations on this. Smart metering is another way of increasing the situational awareness of all the distribution network for the utility. So we are encouraging our utility to put smart meters. They have formulated schemes, and they are coming to us. But the problem of the utility in most cases is whether to go in for CAPEX model or the OPEX model for smart metering. So we have said that you can go for OPEX model if you so desire, and they have to come to us whether they would prefer the OPEX or the CAPEX. But most utilities I know prefer CAPEX model, because that is the model in which they get return on equity. Whereas OPEX model means less burden on the consumer, and the regulators do favor OPEX model. not do it in capex. It is for the utility to come to us. But I would like to say that even after putting smart meters, we would stress on our utility to analyze the data. Smart meter has a lot of capability. It is not only reduction of losses, it is also load research. It is forecasting of power. What would be the kind of demand you have? How will you forecast how much power you will buy? That is a very important portion of what you can get from a smart meter. How you will schedule maintenance, how you will do the workforce management. All that has to be integrated with the smart metering and data available from the smart metering. So smart metering alone does not help. It is how you put that smart metering to use is what will guide our future. We want to ensure, as Mr. Gandota said, quality and reliability. And doing that in a distributed generation environment is quite tough for the utility. It is possible, but then you have to have a lot of awareness of what is happening in your distribution network. And that will come with the smart meters and smart grid, which we call smart grid at the transmission level is another set of things, but smart metering at the distribution level is what is required. We need to ensure reliability. Maybe we need smart relays, smart sectionalizers, auto reclosers, fault passage indicators. All those are required to ensure reliability and quality. We need to have modern technology like artificial intelligence and maybe drones for maintenance. These are being experimented with, but these need to be put more in use. The investment in all these smart technologies comes back very quickly. So it is only the initial investment which is important. And as regulators, I think we have our duty to allow the utility to put in these investments and not only think about the consumer as well as what benefit it will bring to the consumer. It is like a circle. If you put in these investments, you get benefit and the tariff to the consumer is used. For example, if we put in load research and know the kind of load curve we are going to have, we can predict what kind of power procurement we should do, whether we should go in for procurement on the exchange, go in for bilateral. For example, in Punjab, we have load curve where the load is maximum only during the period July to September, where we have the paddy season. That time our load goes up to 13,000 megawatt. But in the off-peak season, for example, 8 months of the year, we have a demand of only 6,000 megawatt. And at night, this goes down to even 3 to 4,000 megawatt. So managing that kind of demand, what kind of PPS do we enter into? What kind of power procurement do we do? That is the most important for a utility to optimize its cost, to give reliable power. You cannot have too many short-term PPS or buy on the exchange if you want to ensure reliability. But at the same time, if you have too many long-term PPS, you may be doing over power procurement. You have to pay fixed charges. So the utility has to optimize, and the regulator's role in that is encouraging the utility to optimize, because the power procurement has to be approved by the regulator, and it has to ensure that a load forecast which is in line with what is happening in today's world is made. It is not only based on percentage growth, rather it should be based on a proper load research, and power procurement should accordingly be entered into. So the era in which we are entering requires a lot of automation and data analysis, I would say. And it is the regulator's role to encourage utilities to have people who can do this data analysis and do a forecast incorporate, for example, do a forecast incorporating the effect of renewables. So I would like to say that we are entering into an era where things are going to transform very fast. And thinking of delicensing, which is coming now in the proposed amended bill, the regulator's role, I think, will become much larger on how to ensure that people, get the people who come in do not only take the cherry picking areas, but also ensure power to the areas which are not so plumb, and ensure a balance between the supply to the consumers who are down, and the industry, both at the same time at a reasonable tariff at affordable prices. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you so much. You have picked up very pertinent and topical points. We will come back to you with certain questions because there are very interesting aspects which are there. So, in the meantime, we have also been joined with Mr. Anil Sardana. He's MD and CEO Adani Transmission, and he's MD Thermal Power. Uh, so Mr. Anil Sardana is Managing Director and CEO of Adani Transmission since 2018. Recently, he is responsible for Adani Power as well. And prior to this, if you did not know, and he was the CEO and Managing Director Tata Power, and he was a founding chief when Tata Power DDL was formed in the name of NDPL that time in 2002 to take over from the state-owned Discom. Anil is credited with having spearheaded the dramatic turnaround of TPDDL. As a consumer in Delhi, I can just vouch for that. Yeah, and it also uh, TPDDL today has achieved benchmark performance standards, including world record reduction of aggregate technical and commercial losses. And he's uh, a bachelor in engineering from Delhi College of Engineering. He holds a postgraduate degree in cost accountancy and postgraduate diploma in management, uh, and attended top management programs at IIM Ahmedabad. He has received several recognitions from India and the international fora, like the Global Award here for Global Alumni Excellence Award by his alma mater, Delhi College of Engineering, incidentally mine too. And Anil, this is personally a high point for me to welcome you to this panel today. Yeah, welcome, Anil. Anil, probably there are very few people in our country who have the overall perspective on the power system, right from the transmission, generation, renewable, and of course, distribution. Now, I cannot not ask you uh, to share, yeah, your first views on the amendment which have come from or the proposed amendments, and how do you think this will transform the landscape of distribution for power utilities, and of course the most common consumer who pays for all the electricity. Over to you, Anil, your views.
So thank you, Vikram, for that generous introduction, and thank you for having me over. In case, since I'm traveling and I'm at a makeshift arrangement, in case you find my voice is not audible, then you let me know so that I can then turn off the video and try and make sure that the voice continues to be clear. So coming back to your question, in terms of the fact that how one looks at the proposed amendment in terms of the benefit to the sector, including eventually the customer. Well, these are some kind of a lifetime amendments that are being proposed right now. These are the ones which eventually will give customer the choice. Now, are these easy to operate and mend? The answer is no. one needs tremendous amount of backing, political will. At the same time, for the entire, I've been advised to turn off the camera, so I'm just trying to do that. I hope that's better. Okay, so one second, just hold on. Yeah, so once again, coming back to the fact that the amendments that are there, while there are several aspects which provide teeth to commissions, which provides teeth to APTIL, which make sure that the discipline in the sector improves in terms of the contract laws, which get now seen by a two-member bench that's being created to be chaired or presided by the member law. All of these are very positive aspects that have been there, and including the fact that now you will have 4-member state commissions, and therefore there is more kind of engagement, interaction, and it's not just that you will be able to keep them open. They've been very clearly, there have been provisions that one has to get these things done and completed in record time. So I think all in all, very good provisions of the Act. The sector people always wanted these amendments. However, the biggest aspect that has come in now is the delicensing of distribution. Now, in actual content, once it goes before the Parliament, one will look at some of the key aspects, especially the aspects related to what will happen to the incumbent, how would the wires get regulated, whether the provisions with regard to the ceiling tariff that the state commissions could announce be crafted and added, as has been suggested by several sector players. Those are aspects that I'm sure the ministry will be able to stitch together. But I would say a very strong step towards making sure that the sector, which has till now been seeing virtually very little being done for customer, makes customer as the pivot and the epicenter of all the reforms. And I think to that extent, one must give kudos to the curators of these amendments.
Well, thank you for the opening remarks. As usual, always you're on the fluent, and you have the flair for absolute coming to the point, and that's something which we really admire. So, as you said, kudos to the people who are behind it, and we are lucky now to have one of the main persons who has been behind that, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, and it's been an honor for me, Mr. Ghanshyam, to have you also on this panel. As we know, you were so busy with the meeting with the minister, and you took some time off for us. So all our audience, I'm sure, is very thankful to you for this. So I will quickly just also, although I've introduced for the panel